Hello and welcome to Wrestle Opinionated Episode 1. We are your hosts, I'm Morg, and this is...
Strange.
And this is our podcast all about the great shows of AEW, where weekly we will be reviewing and discussing all the things going on in and around AEW. Short sparks about being the elite, a quick overall review of Dark, and then a full review of Dynamite. So, this is our first episode, so we should probably introduce ourselves and explain why we're doing this show. So, over to you first, Mr. Strange.
Hi there, my name is Matt Strange. I am the much maligned returning wrestling fan. Fell out of love with wrestling in the John Cena era, tried to sort of get back in the rise of Bork Laser, couldn't do it. Then I discovered a wonderful TV series, Lucha Underground, that we definitely haven't seen over here in the UK.
No, we've never watched Lucha Underground, either of us, in the UK.
And now I'm a weird indie NJPW fanboy, which has obviously led me to AEW. Otherwise, I'm like the enemy of the old fanboy wrestling. I'm an actual LARPer. I love Dragon Ball Z and anime. I'm in. Let's do this.
So I'm Morg. I am an old wrestling fan, and I mean old. I remember when Shawn Michaels turned heel and kicked Marty Jannetty through the plate glass window, and I wasn't that young when it happened. So yeah, I have been a fan of mainly WWE for years, and then I found out about the indies and a little program called Lucha Underground, which I have never watched over here in the UK.
There's no legal way to see it.
Yeah, there is no way that we could watch that over here.
No.
And from that, I have gone on to become a massive NXT fanboy as I fell massively in love with work rate, which led me on to becoming a massive AEW fanboy. I'm the more positive fanboy. I generally just enjoy something that's quite good. I can quite happily live with something that's not brilliant.
Expect a fantastic television show.
Yeah.
I'm judging this on story, plot, acting.
I'm judging it on, does that fit all right with the story? Was the match good?
Yeah.
I say we're both fans of work rate, aren't we?
Yeah, completely. NJPW sort of done that for me, watching Will Ospreay all year.
Yeah, that's fair. I think. And growing up with people like Shawn Michaels and later Undertaker being two of my favourite WWE stars, that's pretty much where I come from. So, go on.
I think my favourite old school WWE wrestler is going to become quite apparent as I talk about things.
Oh yeah?
Oh yeah! It's the fucking best.
So, why are we doing this show now? Go on, Strange. You can lead on to why we're doing it now.
The coronavirus. We're now those guys. In all honesty, we've been building up to this for months. It's just, let's be honest, 2020 has been an exciting year. Lots happened. We've had the plague of fire, the plague of flooding, now just the plague. Kind of puts things back a little bit, doesn't it? But we're here, the fourth sign of the apocalypse. We've actually motivated an old school goth and a weird scar-living weeb.
That and the fact our lovely partners browbeat us into actually getting off our asses and doing it.
Oh, 100% power to the women here. They have
yes.
They have bullied us, shouted at us, sorted technology things for me, motivated you and bullied you into harassing me because I'm like the least motivated man on the planet. So yeah, big props to the Raptor and Rue for actually getting us on microphones 4 or 5 months after we said.
Yeah, this was all supposed to start with episode 3 of Dynamite, but This has given us an excuse, and I don't think it's a bad week to start because I think it's an interesting week.
Completely. It's wrestling has gone through a little like mini Amdram renaissance whilst we've actually got on the microphones with a hostage audience. So
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, no, wrestling is very interesting. Even I took the time out of my day to watch huge chunks of SmackDown because Trips was being amazing.
I still haven't. I still haven't watched. I've so fallen away from WWE. There's only so much time, and I have to keep up to date with NXT. That's my other love, is NXT. So I have to watch that every week. I generally rely on What Culture's podcast for what's happened on Raw and SmackDown.
This is why I need you. I've listened to like Jericho's podcast like twice. A little bit hypocritical now we're doing one, so you have to guide me through this.
Yes. I will have to find you new and interesting podcasts to listen while you're doing the washing up, because that's when I listen to most of mine.
Whilst I'm doing my housewife stuff. Oh. But yeah, no, I can go to Reddit, Squared Circle, and just Google search for Trips on there, and he had a great night on SmackDown. I think he really enjoyed going back to being old school troll Trips and just being a knob. It was wonderful.
He's become a bit of a, and I know this is supposed to be mainly an AEW podcast, but it's, this is the ramble bit, if you like. He has become a bit of a hero, especially to us who like a polished, I don't want to say a polished indie product, a high budget indie product.
Yeah, before AEWs rose up, there was nowhere really for the indie wrestlers to ascend to, and I don't mean that in like a bad way. There's loads of good pushes for making good money on the indie scene. Colt Cabana basically revolutionized it for everyone, but Trips brought that that sort of look to the mainstream with NXT and all of his pushing for it. He's a weird sort of turnaround, but seeing as him and Michaels were kind of like the mid-tier shitlords of I don't mean mid-tier in a bad way, like comedy of their era. It makes sense that they gel more with the indie style than the I'm the biggest guy in the world kind of thing.
Yeah. So part of this, as we said, is going to be a review of Dynamite. So we have a review system, and our review system is not a 5-star system. So the review system is Mr. Strange's review system, which he will now explain to you.
Okay, so it's getting used a bit in other videos now, but this comes solely from my love of animes like Hunter x Hunter and playing too many Resident Evil games as a kid. I use a tier list. We should start around a C. C tier is a good match. Like, I'm not expecting my mind to be blown, but that's what I should expect to be an average match. I can watch it and go, good. Good times. Wonderful. B, improvement on the technical skills, some cool high spot. I don't really sort of look away. Or, boost it with story. It could go either way. We are working with my opinions here. A, I want story. I want a good match. I don't want to have to look at my phone halfway through. I just want to be able to go, wow. Proper, solid, wonderful stuff. An S tier match is Pentagon versus the Black Lotus Triad, which obviously I haven't seen because we can't watch Lucha Underground over here. But I hear it's an incredibly good story-driven match with loads of character, ties into the plot, showcases all manner of things. I suppose I should give another example of an S-class match for obviously all of the English people.
Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker.
Yeah, I'll give you that. That's solid character, brilliant match. Yeah, you've got to have emotion in a S-class match. I need it to tie into a story.
Yeah, and I'd say that's, or maybe a more recent one, and an AEW one, in fact. Ooh. The Young Bucks versus Kenny and Paige.
I was actually thinking of that. I meant to make a note to use that as my reference, but because it was like only the other week, and I've been just watching this week's AE dubs over and over again, it kind of slipped out of my mind in my speech. Yeah, great character. We can get to me gushing over how much I love the angst-ridden millennial cowboy in the future. You saw the character work. It had reason. It built up in storylines. We cared, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
If it's a D, I was going to go down the other way.
Carry on.
D bad. If I rank a match in E, I probably shouldn't have been watching it. D is that boring level. We're going to disagree on a few Ds because I hate squash matches and you don't mind them.
I don't mind them if they're relevant.
Yeah, I got you.
But I do agree that a squash match is a D match.
Yeah, I like to see a fight.
I think we will agree there that a squash match is a D match, but sometimes they are important to help get a wrestler over.
Make them look badass.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my tier system. Hopefully it won't draw too much hate as things go on. I assume it will. But I don't care, so let's roll.
You live on people's hate.
It feeds me. Wonderful entropy.
So, AEW news. And do we have any, Mr. Strange? Is there any news this week from the wonderful world of AEW?
Okay, so shockingly, we're probably going to go into a little bit of starting spoilery things here. But if you're listening to a wrestling podcast after the show and not expecting spoilers, I've got nothing to say to you. You're on your own. So obviously,
you've just given the spoiler warning.
Yeah, this is the spoiler warning. So obviously, 2 new signings for AEW this week, which we'll be discussing further in the future. A few people may have been aware, especially if they watch his YouTube channel or follow his Twitter, that good old Matt Hardy is fully released and fully back on the delete train. He has made a awesome, yet, with the climate, somewhat disappointing pop return to the... come to AEW. We'll discuss that more in the future, but everybody's gone crazy.
Do you think they should have held him back until the time that they had an audience, or do you think it was more important to just sort of pop the audience at home?
I think you're going to have a lot of mix on Matt Hardy fans here, especially when people love to complain about, the great differences between WWE and AEWs. He'd been doing the Free the Delete videos. I'm not a huge follower of Matt Hardy. I got into it because of this. Obviously, I remember him from the golden age of wrestling, when they were with Gangrel.
Ooh, deep cut.
Yeah, man. I was watching some videos on things last night. I don't think they could have held it off any longer. We had to have the Exalted one, and we had to have Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy, all the videos with I Knew You Would Come and the books, brilliant. People who are into Matt Hardy, especially from when he was doing his more indie runs, that's what they've been craving. There was a thing which was apparently meant for his arrival, where it could have been done a little bit shinier, but I think it had to be done. Everybody's excited. Everybody's happy to see it. And I think it was, holding it off, they would have known anyway, so you'd have lost that initial, whoa, big pop anyway. I feel more sorry for Brody Lee.
Right, so yes, on to Brody Lee now.
Yes,
so that was the other big signing, former Luke Harper from WWE.
Luke Harper, obviously former Brody Lee from Chikara.
Yes. You think he missed out on the pop or the revealing?
The show was originally set to be in Rochester, which is Brody Lee's hometown. So the crowd would have gone crazy for him. He's been waiting for this with his weird Twitter posts for ages. He's a man who was... I'm not going to rip on the WWE with its placement of wrestlers and such. He's a man who was not used to his potential. You can see it in a load of his indie matches. He's a really agile, technical wrestler for a man of his size and stuff. He's got good promo game, but apparently he couldn't do a southern accent, so that didn't help him with the Wyatts. I think it was the Wyatts. So yeah, I think it's more of a loss to him. Matt Hardy's always going to be over. He's got his huge following. He'll be great. Brody Lee is sort of coming into his own. Like, he could have had his own little like mini Mox moment, but I feel more for him, basically.
I think with him coming in as a heel, it's not going to hurt him as much in the long term.
No, he'll be fine.
Maybe even a big cheery pop from his home crowd might have been confusing to people a little.
I think.
But it also, of course, it also does then go, oh, this is a guy to watch. I just remember him as Harper, so he, this is now a guy to watch.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, on the way of viewing heels, we have the entire crowd singing Jericho's intro every time. I think in AEW, you have to put aside the crowd a little bit sometimes.
Yes, yeah, I think that's fair. And other news from AEW is, so they have postponed Blood and Guts. Tony Khan has tweeted about this. They're postponing the Blood and Guts match, or call it what it is. They're postponing War Games.
It's a completely different thing.
Well, I mean, War Games was originally, more in the Dusty Rhodes era, so I think that's one of the reasons Cody wanted it, or wanted that match.
Yeah, it's very much his dad's classic era of wrestling. I mean, I know Dusty went for fucking years, but that classic Southern style territories wrestling sort of thing. Yeah, War Games is wicked. It's I'm not a huge fan of gimmick matches, other than obviously the greatest gimmick match of all time, Eddie versus Ray for the custody of Dominic, which I will talk about at any opportunity, because it was a ladder match. But yeah, no, War Games is great. If anybody should be able to do one out in the world without being sued, it should be Cody. It should be the Rhodeses. I think his dad actually was the first person to put it forwards or be in one. I mean, I could be horribly wrong. Please don't be angry at me, internet.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, feel free to email us and correct us. What do you think about the idea of postponing it? Do you think it's a good idea?
I think it's a good idea. Now, I know I said that the pops for the guys coming out of contract, it's better to see them than to wait for a crowd. But that's got that. There's always that sort of thing in wrestling for fans when you're like, oh, I can't wait till wrestler X gets out of his contract and we can really see what he's going to do. As long as we get to see him in matches, they'll be all right. When you're doing something big and cool, and especially when it's one of your first ones, I mean, we've not had many wanky matches in AEWs yet, in a good way. I don't mean that in a bad way. Weird stipulations and shit.
Yeah, I also think it's, looking at the people in it, it's a bunch of guys who are going to kill themselves for our entertainment, and I think they should get a crowd to do that in front of, personally.
Yeah, exactly. And it'll add to that, and seeing whenever you see a cage match, or a double cage in the case of Blood and Guts, it's got a weird a prison fight feel for me. I like the all the people, you can see the crowds around the cage, and that adds to the spectacle. It's a bit I can't remember the name of the film series about Yuri Boyka, most powerful fighter in the world, but that the cage with the crowd gives it a bit more of a visceral feel, more so than just a crowd round a ring, which is still a thing I love. I really do miss the crowd pop, but I think when you've got that extra level of flair, you need that crowd.
Yeah, I mean, back to the Matt Hardy thing, I got to witness my girlfriend pop. I had it spoiled due to AEW sending me an email the day after.
Terrible.
Day after Dynamite, with the 2 new T-shirts available, which were Brody Lee and Matt Hardy's new AEW T-shirts, and then making the mistake of going on YouTube, and the splash page for one of the channels I watch on there was Matt Hardy's AEW debut. So, but when Vanguard 1 sailed into view, at least I saw the pop happen at home.
Apparently, after it landed in the ring, it was meant to fly back up to where Matt Hardy was, and then everybody would follow it there, which would have looked really cool. But apparently, it just didn't take off again.
Oh,
So
dear.
that's why Matt Hardy sort of did his waving his arms about, rah, delete stuff, whilst Jericho looked like he was going to cry.
But
I mean, it
think
worked.
we'll get
I was
more into that.
happy, but it could have been.
Yeah. Before we wander off into the review section.
I'm sorry.
So now it's our own section, and this one's over to you again, Mr. Strange.
What?
So
why you should
best
follow Chucky
Twitter-
T?
Best Twitter, and why is it Chucky T?
I think most people who my friends who watch wrestling know I'm a bit of a sexy Chucky T fan. So Chuck Taylor is, and he's not had his best showing on AEW yet. Don't get me wrong; he's eaten a lot of shit, and he's not as wonderfully in shape as his sculpted partner Trent. But Chuck Taylor is like this weird meta nihilistic millennial poster. Chuck Taylor will comment on anything. My personal favorite being the Hangman Page dead horse story, which made it into being the Elite. Hangman Page had a horse, which he showed in a skit, obviously Hunter Horse Helmsley, and Hunter Horse Helmsley died. Chuck Taylor tweets him with a little picture going, sorry I killed your horse, but he'd crossed out killed. And it was like, I'm sorry your horse died. And Hangman's like, Chuck, what is this? And Chuck's like, don't worry, I had a horse too, and it died on my birthday. And there's like a little picture of like 8-year-old Chuck on a horse. I'm assuming horse owning is a Southern America thing. And then Hangman drew back with, I'm sorry about your dead birthday horse. Which was then in a BTE sketch where Chuck gave Hangman visions about dead horses. He's Jim Cornette, obviously a very decisive figure in wrestling.
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting that.
Yeah, I would say I'm from a different era of wrestling fans, but I've got nothing against a man having his opinion. He put up a tweet once, which was obviously aimed at Chuck, which was something along the lines of, there's only one wrestler from Kentucky I hate. And Chuck Taylor just commented with, is it Ricochet? Because they're like best mates. Where's my... I've got a set of notes on this and I've fucking lost them. Continuously, like he tweeted Hangman again about having taken a picture of him when he peed, and he was like, but I didn't show anybody. And Trent's like, that is a lie. Whenever he has a tweet with Trent in it, he'll tag him as Greg, which is obviously Trent's real name. But he won't tag Trent's account. He'll just put in @Greg and click a random Greg. So it's just all these random Gregs tagged into random wrestlers' stuff. On pretty much every single inner circle hug picture, he's just written "this is bullshit" and stuff like that. He's just continuous meta jokes, just asshole, and I love him. What was the one? It was I hope I never get into, if I ever get into a real fight, I don't just throw lame forearms. He is wonderful, but you can see it now. You're starting to see it now in his promos and stuff. The little like best friends promo circle things are always just them lightly shitting on things and talking like marks, smarks. I don't know which one the correct term is. I'm still learning wrestling terminology.
I always think that you have three marks. Are the fans who. So this is Morg's guide to wrestling terminology. Or Morg's opinion on wrestling terminology is a mark is usually a younger fan and is the fans who believe it's real. A smart mark are the fans who know it's a work, like to analyze it, find part of the fun in it. And then you get the smarks, who are the ones that no matter what will just crap on it if it's not their particular favorite indie show, and doesn't matter how good AEW or WWE do, they're a mainstream show, so they're not as good as small independent wrestling thing that only 3 people watch.
There's a lot of NJPW smarky wankers there. As much as I love my NJPW, and that is an entirely different rant, whilst I shout tranquilo and stuff, there is quite a hint of elitism with the NJP dub fans. Just Chucky T, brilliant. Follow him. Go. You'll see.
So that's probably going to be a weekly segment as to why you should follow Chucky T on Twitter.
I love him. I'm going to get pictures, and we're just going to put them everywhere.
So, I think it's time now to move on to our reviews.
Ooh.
So, starting off this week's Being the Elite, which was on Monday. What did you think of the show?
I had a good time, he says as he's flicked away his notes to the wrong page. I've got it. I generally really like Being the Elite. I'm enjoying a lot of things they do with it. I've liked the barista, Matt wanting to be a barista, Colt Cabana wanting to be in every scene, but I am an abashed Colt fan as well. All of the depth they've added to Hangman, but with a comedy edge.
You hated Hangman originally.
I fucking loathed him. I couldn't fucking stand him. And now I'm like, yeah, come on. I'm really on board with him. And I don't think Hangman has lost out from these scenes not being on episodes, on actual Dynamite or Dark. But I think they add a little extra meta commentary on things, like when he's walking with music in his head and such. Like this week was a bit more serious on his in his little section, but I love him. I am 100% in the Hangman story. I'm also really enjoying the oh god, I'm gonna have to big up the librarians. The competitive losing streak that's shown in it.
Yes, I think that's leading to a triple threat between the 3 of them.
Yeah, no, and I think for me, the golden age of wrestling, which is it's somewhere between the Attitude and Ruthless Aggression, from what I understand. I don't understand the time period, period bits. But do you remember when wrestling was we had The Rock, we had Stone Cold, etc. But all the joy was in the mid and upper low card. Where you really I cited the Brood earlier, when that sort of thing built up, and Scotty Too Hotty and Too Cool and all that, where Jericho was a mid-carder, you know what I mean?
Yeah, late Attitude era.
Yeah, I love the big stars, I love the big things, but I like still seeing the aggression and storylines between fun characters and fun interactions. Even if they're not winning, it's cool to know that they care and have a reason to do stuff, even if it can't all be on Dark.
That was a very, very nice segue there, sir.
Boom! That was accidental.
Yes. No. It was perfect setup.
Yeah.
So yes, AEW Dark. What we've decided we're going to do for AEW Dark is we're just going to give it an overall grade and review rather than a breakdown review, unless there's a particularly standout match that we think should be watched. I believe this week's Dark was from Salt Lake City.
That's what my notes say. Taz said at the start. Taz is fantastic, and I love him on the mic, especially with Excalibur. I'm getting that out now. It's going to come up more often, but he's wonderful.
One thing I don't like quickly about that, I don't like Taz's pen mark. I know it's the Real Sport thing, but I don't know. It just doesn't.
I know. I've kind of been laughing at it
for me.
Because all the lines are always so shittily drawn, and the circles are so scrawly. I've just figured they're taking the piss, and if it's real, I'm probably going to be quite disappointed, if I'm honest. I've been laughing at these. Look, she's got an arch in her back. I'll just circle here. I'm like, oh, brilliant, great.
So yeah, overall, Dark. What did you think of this week? I thought it was an okay Dark.
I had a good time. I gave, I apparently quite enjoyed Avalon versus Colt, but that's because I actually see Avalon's really good. Colt's just hilarious. The little Gone with the Wind moment made me laugh. Yeah, that was good. What else do we have? Tony Schiavone and his Vampire Brides. Oh no, am I going to have to explain Tony Schiavone and his Vampire Brides?
Possibly.
Okay, so Tony Schiavone, since Dark has started, you'll notice he's always on a green screen, which I didn't pick up on at first until Muir pointed out he doesn't have a shadow. So that just started bothering me. And then he obviously, what's the name of the first lass who was with him? Is it Dasher?
I think Dasher is his usual.
Yeah. That and then suddenly he had this Latino lady in like tight black leather, and we were like, oh, he's got a vampire bride. But then they kept just adding other ones, and it'd be like over to blonde lady whose name I've forgotten. I'm sorry, and we're like, oh no, Tony Schiavone's vampire brides. So a little off track there, but I figured I should explain. I'll probably make references to that over and over again. I do have an interesting note from Dark though. Have you noticed that TH2's intro sounds a lot like a piano piece that played at the end of Dynamite? Hello?
It sounds like a piano piece, sorry.
So TH2's music, diddly, 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 you know, that bit.
Yes.
Doesn't that sound quite a lot like a synthesized version of a piece of music that played when a drone rolled in?
Ah, yes.
When we get to there later, I'm going to be like, doesn't this piece sound like a digital piece of music on piano instead? But yeah, otherwise, I'll stop distracting us too much. TH2 versus Cutler and Nakazawa. I generally enjoy everybody in that match. Cutler's currently holding my Macho Man Best Coat of AEW award.
He did not roll a dice before he started, and my lovely girlfriend reckons it's because if he rolls a 20, he has to win the match.
I mean, that would be the best improv in the world. Sorry, guys, I've got to win.
You have to explain it to them all.
Oh, yeah. In Dungeons and Dragons, when you roll a dice, a d20, and you're attacking somebody and you get a 20, that's a critical hit. And that's like double, sometimes triple damage. It's the most powerful attack. It's filling up your special move bar on Guilty Gear. It's you get to win.
It's your guaranteed.
If Brandon Cutler rolls a 20, he gets to win. Cody, make this happen.
That should so be his gimmick.
Mate, I'd buy that. But if he gets a 1, he just has to fucking fall over. Standard football. Otherwise, yeah, good match. I enjoyed everybody in it. Didn't blow my mind just because I don't think everybody worked together. I just don't think they were that comfortable together. I'm used to watching the monster powered Slender Man and the world's spinniest man, I don't know, get away with a bit more. But Brandon's doing wicked. He is up and up and up. Like
I'm loving this thing he's got where he pretty much solos half a match against a named tag team.
Yeah, mate, he's got the ultimate hot tag power.
Yes.
I mean, I know Nakazawa's not for everyone, but I enjoy a good few comedy matches. It was a good match. It just didn't blow my mind in any way, shape, or form. Sounds a bit harsh. These guys, everything is really hard that they do. Just fine. Woo! Please don't come round to my house and beat me up, professional wrestlers. I am only small.
And then the main event was...
It's Ford versus Riho!
Oh, yes, there was the Riho
and a Ford match. I actually really like Kip and Ford together. I love the fact that Kip actually interferes in Ford's matches as opposed to traditional wrestling where, a woman can only help a man.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's really good.
They're doing shades of intergender to bring that in.
Well, I mean, Lucha Underground that we've never ever watched and you can't watch in the UK.
It's illegal.
Showed that you can have really good intergender matches.
Yeah, it's just sadly a lot of the mainstream wrestling audience, people you want to win over, can watch a Marvel film or a film where a 5 foot woman runs around doing martial arts on giant people and beating them to death and really enjoy it. But for some reason, you do it in a ring with people who are doing it live and no stuntmen, and it's just not realistic. No, I don't like this television show, Men versus Women. Only this other one. My little feminist rant of the day, I suppose.
And yes, and then was there another match on Dark?
There was. I was just going to say Ford versus Rio was actually really good. Was good, solid, like not mind blowing, but good. What I should expect from a standard sort of women's match.
Yes.
We'll argue about other things later. And it was Ultimate Dad Christopher Daniels versus Stu Grayson with his Best War Skirt award. He's got some good LARP kit, that lad. Not so good face paint.
Yeah, Brandon Cutler's winning on the face paint.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, otherwise started a bit slow, picked up. Once Grayson got into it and started throwing a bit more character in, like shouting, "This is fun" and stuff. Yeah, I really quite enjoyed it. It was a good, solid match. Overall, good Dark, in my opinion. Not the best Dark, but, you know.
Do you have a grade for this Dark?
Well,
where does it rate on your...
It's hit with mostly C's and B's, so I'll give it a B. You know, it was actually solid. We got to see a selection of different things, hints of different stories. Yeah, I think it actually tied in quite nicely. Now I've given it an appraisal as we go, so I'm gonna make it a B tier Dark. Story relevant, Dark, good matches. Boo.
So worth watching.
Yeah, definitely.
So now we move on to the main review, the main event, the main show, Dynamite. An interesting Dynamite this week. Obviously, yeah, no crowd. I like what they did, having some of the wrestlers out to be a crowd and give them some reaction.
That was wonderful. MJF and my as Ruth puts it, my shameful love of Sean Spears was really fed.
Yes.
Apparently, I always look so sad.
So it opened up with Cody's promo. Matt and Kenny come out. Kenny speaks about him and Cody, and they don't always see eye to eye. How he wants to leave as the Elite. Matt talks about there's just 3 of them. Nick being injured, and asks where Paige is. Paige comes out and nods and raises his glass to say he joined them. What did you think of the promo?
Cody doing Cody things. You've got, got to burn some time in AEW. You can just give a mic to Cody or Jericho. You're solid. Yeah, really nice. Obviously, I'm more of a heel tweener guy, so there's only so much like inspiring. We've got to come together. I can take. But it was really good. Cody's just fabulous on a mic. He can do great things. I think
he is their best babyface promo.
Oh yeah, he's wonderful.
For being a legitimate babyface promo, I really like, and someone who actually does like babyfaces and likes a good hero, I do quite enjoy Cody's solid babyface promos.
Yeah, he's just wonderful. I've stumbled a bit. It did feel a bit weird when the other 2 came out because they weren't quite talking to each other. They were sort of still half talking to the camera. And I know, obviously, they have to. It's a show, but I'm not going to downmark it or shit on it. It's weird situations. It just sort of came across a bit like a amateur theatre / comedy, little stand-up thing, especially with all the darkness around. I'm not shitting on it. It was all great, nice build a story, but I was like, oh, it's like watching some of my friends at the theatre. This is nice.
So we have decided previous to this that we are going to grade promos if they are, we think, worthy of a grade. Was this whole segment promo worthy of a grade? And if so, what grade did you give it?
I gave it a solid B. It got taken down from an A from 2 things. 1, it was awkward. That's not on them. 2, we can see some of the absolute, we've seen Cody do probably one of the best promos of the last 5 years. I'd say decade, but somebody would call me out. And finally, when Hangman was like, let's start, Omega was like, let's start the music and get the promos, he had the perfect chance to go, it's time to start the music, it's time to light the lights, and do the full Muppet thing, and no one did. So it gets a B.
That's fair. That's a fair down mark. So we had JR, Taz, and Excalibur on commentary, so I'm guessing you were quite happy to have your boy Taz there.
He's so good. Like, he was having a great time through the whole show, and that's what I like from my commentators. I like it when they care and they're actually having fun with me.
And then they obviously, we had the small MJF promo to set up him and Spears' gambling, and also it set up the sort of the crowd thing for us with the heels on the one side.
I really like that. I thought that was a cool setup. I think Sean and MJF had a great time, and with my shameful love of Sean Spears, I love how his gimmick is basically that twat mate. You know, you got that one friend who's always just a bit too much of a wanker. That's his gimmick, and I love it. He's a bit goofy. Those two together is wonderful, and they did the work of a lot of the crowd and pushed some story stuff, which was cool. I don't think
I really enjoyed it. I thought they were hilarious. I like the little asides, like the shameful that you would accuse us of gambling. Do you want some of this action? Or I thought that was really cool. The drinking the wine and
just
so go on.
No. But I lost my thought when the sound come through. You go.
So Brandy back on ring announcing.
I feel bad
she's
for
done
Brandy.
it before. And we led into our first match. I'm sure this was a match you absolutely adored. Best Friends versus the Lucha Brothers, or as they're otherwise known, and if you can say this with a straight face, you are a better man than me and Strange, the Death Triangle.
I love it so much. Do you know the story behind where this name comes from? Have I told you this? Should I tell the people?
I think you should.
Okay, so Pentagon and Phoenix were trained in Mexico by old days Mexican lucha wrestlers. I don't have their names on me, sadly. Lucha's got a huge tradition over in Mexico, obviously, and they were part of their tutors were part of a triad called is it Triangulo de la Muerte? It is, isn't it?
Yes, I believe so.
Triangulo de la Muerte, which sounds fine. You've got that Mexican, especially with Pentagon or the Rudo feel on throwing it out there. But so it's a dedication. It's a dedication to their old teachers. It's a long-established, stable, for a better name. Unfortunately, in English, it's Death Triangle. So you've got Super Northern Pack, King of the Dwarves, with his giant thighs and huge shoulders, shouting Death Triangle. It's Jeremiah Snake, who is a character in a series I've never seen, level of humor. I just can't. Fortunately, they're fabulous.
I can't repeat the name that you've just said because I am pretty sure there will be howls of laughter from the room next door. Because my girlfriend cannot hear that particular name without collapsing into hysterics.
It was wonderful.
So and also we had one of the best guest commentary people ever. I mean, they've had a lot of good people. Orange Cassidy on guest commentary.
Cassidy is killing the business. Have no idea what people outside the business want to see. I show him and his matches to so many non-wrestling fans, and they love him. He's hilarious. He's got his gimmick down, and he can go in the ring.
So match goes on. Lucha Brothers win after Pentagon low blows Trent and a package pile driver combination. What did you think of the match and on the whole, and what was your score for the match?
I had a great time, obviously. I'm enjoying the fact Pentagon has... what was that? I'm enjoying the fact Pentagon has stopped pressing taunt so much, as we put it. I love him. I love him from a show I definitely haven't watched. And in AEW, he hasn't quite slid in yet. Like, he was a bit too wooey, a bit too Cero Miedo-y. And I love Pentagon. But he's brought it down. They've got a lot more of their old aggression back. He's got a lot more of his mild being a wanker all the time. Trent is amazing, as everyone knows. I'm still a little bit sad Chucky T hasn't really had a chance to shine. He's not really been that impressive in AEW yet, but the guy is great, and people should watch him versus Jack Sabre Jr. in the PWG Championship because it's wonderful. Yeah, I had a great time. My only main criticism would be is I'm so bored of pile driver, bum stomp, tag finishers. I'm just so bored of them. Everybody does them. Strong Zero, Meltzer Driver. I don't know the name of Penta and Phoenix's one. There's just too many. Please do something different. But I gave it a B, and the little promo at the end won me over. The humor, the meta-normalness of the best friends just brings me joy. I think they could have probably done with a break between this match and a street fight. It feels a bit like they're speeding through this.
I think the street fight's a clever idea because they know there's a strong... I mean, they did refer to it on the next Dynamite quite a lot throughout the show. But if it is next week or the week after, I think they know they're going to be without an audience. And I think a street fight, it less blindsides them than this week. The same with the Lumberjack match, which was the other one that was later on mentioned they were going to have.
It means you don't have a crowd sat watching your big screens for your action. It's just on TV. I just think that, maybe if they'd had a couple of matches against other people, it wouldn't end so quickly. It's like, unless they're going to Gado this and go off in a... Gado is the booker from NJPW, and go off in a random tangent direction. It just feels like it could be a bit short, especially if the best friends just get stomped again. But outside with ex-NJPW and massive indie wrestlers, they might actually be in their element, so we might get a massively good match. I'm hoping for it anyway.
Next up, we had the women's fatal four-way, which was Penelope Ford with Kip Sabian versus Rio versus Chris Statlander versus Hikaru Shida. Hikaru Shida wins with a knee strike. What did you think of the match, and what grade do you give it?
All right. This was a tough one to grade for me because largely I think the match was solid. We had we did have a single botched Hurricanrana from Penelope Ford, but we can let her off because every other Hurricanrana she does is like fucking beautiful. The woman's fantastic. I really, really enjoyed the start where it looked like Shida and Statlander were teaming up. I thought that was really cool, and I'm dying for the women's league to improve, and I'd like a tag league because I like tag wrestling, and AEW is apparently all about it. Otherwise, it was solid. Statlander and Shida can both do really cool power moves, even if Shida's strikes always look a little bit weak for me, even though Taz says they're the best in the business. Well, best in the women's. Riho seems to have moved more into bomb and proper stomp moves, so that's good because, once again, not to shit on the size of people to wrestling, it's a choreographed stunt display, but you just even I can't buy some moves from Riho and other people, and I love Yuka. Otherwise, yeah, I think it was solid. It basically probably around a C. Some of the storytelling aspects with the when Shida and that were getting together, Riho versus Penelope Ford, the brilliant moment with Kip and Colt at the end of the match could take it up to a B for me, just because if it goes somewhere, it's worth more, because currently nothing's really gone anywhere. But that's going to be ripped on later.
I think I can be quite happy with Kip versus Colt in the future.
I care more about that than I did Joey Janela versus Kip. Not because I think either of them are bad wrestlers or anything. I just don't care for the ex-girlfriend storyline. Seemed a bit weird.
Yes. It's a bit too old school wrestling.
Yeah, if it had been like Kip and Penelope come out to like rip on Joey, and Joey was like, "Our relationship is over, but I'll still beat him up," I think I'd have been more on board with it. You know, it was sad, but you know, these things happen. P.S. Go through a table.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, no, I
So
think
then-
that was. Go.
Go on, carry on.
I think the women's match overall was solid. And any match where you do a Poison Rana gets a little like bonus thumbs up from me. I said not mind blowing, but in all honesty, it looks like we're getting a better direction this year than we did last year. What did you think?
I thought it was all right. I'm very spoiled when I'm a big fan of women's wrestling. I particularly enjoy it. Or I'm a big superhero nerd, and all my favorite superheroes are the female superheroes. A lot of the time, people go, "Who's your favorite superhero?" You know, it's nearly always one of the female ones. I think more on this later. Slight spoiler for the future.
Come back,
but it was a good. Yeah, it was an okay match. It kept me. I watched it. I didn't get distracted and look at my phone.
It's what an average women's match should be.
Yes. So then we had a promo from Moxley about not being allowed in the building. I thought this was a fairly solid Mox promo. Pretty much standard.
Sorry, I keep talking over you. Go.
Just pretty standard Mox promo. What did you think?
Yeah, well, the final line is, "See, it's fine." I'm not the biggest Moxley fan. I don't dislike him. I'm really glad he's got his thing going, and the crowd obviously fucking loves him. But I've seen enough like James Deany, Stone Coldy characters. I'm a fighter, and it was good. It was a Mox promo. It just, yeah, good for people who love him. He's not quite my style of wrestler, but yeah, it was good for what it was. It was no paradigm shift promo.
Fair. So out of that side, I don't think that one, and even as a bit of a Mox fan, I don't think it hit good enough to deserve an actual a ranking. It was a nice little segment, just told us what he's doing. So next was the Butcher and the Blade with the Bunny versus Jurassic Express without Marco.
They didn't have the Bunny, did they? Was she there?
I think she came out with them originally.
All right, okay.
Certainly from my notes, she came out with them when they came out.
Well, if she was there, she has not been ranked, in my opinion, of this match.
That's fair.
I have a real love of the look of evil Teddy Roosevelt and evil Jason Statham. So I'm kind of rooting for them to have better matches.
I'm very not sold on the Butcher and the Blade. They've not. They're in the danger of Death Triangle, name-wise. But I do love Jurassic Express.
Yeah, no. Jurassic Express are great, and they're so over, and you can tell how popular they are from just the fact of how many losses they've eaten, and nobody cares. You know what I mean? They can eat losses, and everybody still loves them, and they always look wonderful. And they look great in here again. Only a couple of little slips here and there.
I really liked the ending of the match with Jungle Boy doing the leap out to keep, was it the Butcher on the floor outside?
I get the feeling
that was a really nice touch.
I get the feeling Butcher was meant to be stood up to take a tope suicida at that point, because if you notice, Jungle Boy sort of got there, sort of hopped out and then stamped on him, and Jake the Snake put his hand on his face. Still worked, still looked good, but I was like, the momentum just sort of stuttered. Not like, didn't stop, but it's like when you have a little like jump in a computer game when your ping's off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was once again solid. Not mind blowing. A lot of cool stuff happened. A couple of little slips. Yeah, good.
What's your ranking?
I gave it a C for just being solidly good. I like the fact the Butcher and the Blade lost because of MJF.
Yes.
And I think that's actually an important thing to mention, because I think that will tie into a story and be able to make us care a little bit more. Like, I am more of a Butcher fan than the Blade fan, but I think that's because the Butcher looks like a giant evil Victorian walrus, and I wish to
Yes.
watch him smash things. But yeah, no, I think the Lucha Express, Jurassic Express are on the up now, and they're going to start getting their push. And I think we're going to get a breakdown between the Mercenaries and MJF, and I think they could both use that for actually having a bit of a story.
So, do you think that? And I know there's been some talk online about this. Rather than having a mid-card title, AEW should consider having a trios title as they are so tag team focused as a company.
Yes, like a lot of the internet disagrees with this, and apparently a lot of the internet hates trios. But I think we should not only have trios, we should have full Lucha rules trios, which is when one man lands on the floor outside the ring, any other man can enter the ring and become legal. It gets rid of your whole Pentagon and Phoenix not caring about the rules side. It gives us a different style of high-paced match. You can get a selection of different things going on inside and outside the ring. And I think it would be really cool. But I also think we should have a hardcore belt. So there we are. Are you a trios man?
I am. I was persuaded to the world of trios by a show that I've never watched.
Never seen, not once.
Never seen in the UK. So after that, we had the Dark Order coming out, cutting their promo when Christopher Daniels interrupts, tells us all that there is no Exalted One, and then the Exalted One arrives, and it is, as we mentioned earlier, Brody Lee comes out. What did you think of the promo?
Well, for one, I was really happy for him, because obviously I've been following all the little bits of news and seeing where things are going. I enjoyed it. I wasn't sold at first with the weird digital voice thing, but then it obviously blended into him to show he can actually do a promo on his own. His coat's quite high tier on the Macho Man scale. Yeah, no, I think the promo was solid. I quite like the "if we knock on your door, you will open, or I will personally knock it down." It showed him with threat. Obviously, he gets his one snip at Vince, but in my opinion, everybody in AEW who's come from there gets one. You know what I mean? Some of the others, Cody and Jericho, have overdone it at parts. But if you feel like you were undervalued talent, you get your one snip in your big promo. I'm fine with that. Yeah, I gave it an A rank. I really enjoyed it. It's just a shame you could see Brody coming out the left tunnel when the promo started.
Yes. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Now, you've mentioned this coat scale thing a couple of times. We should probably explain that there are 3 important scales within our small circle of AEW fans. So I personally have the beard scale, and all beards are judged on the beard of Son of Havoc from a TV show called Lucha Underground that I have never watched.
He had a beautiful beard.
My partner has the hair scale, and all hair is judged on the scale to AJ Styles, who apparently has the best hair in wrestling. And you have your scale as well.
The Macho Man Randy Savage Best Coat Award. Currently on a global scale, held by Tanahashi and NJPW, but we're bringing it down just to the AEW scale at the moment. So in first place, obviously Brandon Cutler, but it looks like Brody Lee is going to go compete for second. There's not a lot of coats in AEW, and this needs to be addressed, if I'm honest.
There's not a lot of beards, and Brody Lee has actually lost some beard points for having the beard trimmed.
Oh, you're not a fan of groomed Brody Lee? You like big bushy Brody Lee?
Big bushy, yeah. I think that's on the beard scale. Yeah, I think Dark Order taking at SCU sets up the storyline, keeps it going.
Yeah, I'm really interested.
I really enjoyed this.
Hooray! We're on the same page. He did do a little tease for Sister Abigail before he just fucking obliterated Ultimate Dad Christopher Daniels.
Yes, I noticed that. I'm glad it wasn't just me that noticed that.
Reddit
and then
told
we went
me.
from one promo to another promo.
Jake the Snake.
Yes. So for me now, I talked about earlier about being a fan, a long time ago when I was young, and Jake the Snake was always one of my favorites. he was so individual at the time because he was the wrestler who cut a promo who didn't shout. There was
What was
no.
it he said? If a strong man talks, he only has to speak softly, and everyone listens. If I recall, was a Jake line.
Yeah, and he just cuts. I'm loving this. I'm loving the fact that we're seeing Jake Roberts after all the problems he has been through. Big shout out to DDP. DDP, you saved the life of one of my childhood favorite wrestlers.
Jake the Snake was my favorite childhood wrestler, solely on the merit that he owned a snake. Now I'm looking back and I'm watching things. I'm like, this man is good. I'm on board with everything Jake does. He wasn't quite as good as last time, but last time was fucking golden. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this was just a quick promo, and it led on to Lance Archer beats up some local talent in a ring in a field.
In Darby Allin's garden.
Yeah.
I was like, this camera style looks familiar. I wonder where this was filmed. Darby Allin. Okay, budding film student. Yeah, I love the definitely not a Lucha Underground background cut. I loved Lance Archer getting to do Lance Archer things, showing how massive he is. I love the weird like circus wrestling in thing with the little person who was buff as hell doing the intro. It had a very backwards south sort of feel, which obviously works well with Jake's verbose promos and sort of, I want to say like weird southern scary Christian. Does that make sense? Like something out of Preacher.
Yes, I know what you mean.
And that's what they're rolling with.
Almost cult leader, but not actually playing the cult leader.
Yeah, exactly. I'm loving it. I am 100% on board with Jake and the Murder Hawk. Because that man is massive and very agile. It's nice we've got some big dudes arriving in AEW at last. Like we had a couple of big dudes, but now we're getting a lot of big dudes.
Yeah, I think some big guys who can do the kind of things that Luchasaurus, got to get a shout out for this, can do, and the things we know Brody Lee can do, and Lance Archer. Going back to, and I know we keep harping onto that show we never watched, Lucha Underground, but the first time you watched some of the big guys in that do stuff, and it was like, oh,
Willie Mack, man. Willie Mack moves.
Yeah.
Cage.
That man. That man needs to come to AEW. And then finally, we had the Inner Circle versus the Elite with Jericho on commentary. Now, for all of our joking earlier about Orange Cassidy, it's a treat when you get someone as good as Jericho on the commentary, isn't it?
Jericho is wonderful. Like he broke Taz a couple of times. Taz was properly laughing. The man's gold, wherever you put him. His interactions with Sammy and Sammy butchering his theme tune.
Sammy singing the Judas theme at the beginning, I thought was fantastic because that's what the crowd does. I thought
it made it better that he didn't know all the words. Yes. In honesty, Jericho is great. Coupled with the wrestlers in the crowd, it really felt like it distracted from the emptiness of everything. I've even written here, Jericho puts everyone over, even when like he's talking about people he hates. He's like, but he's so tough, or he's very impressive, but I hate him and I've beaten him. It's just the guy's amazing. Otherwise on the match, it's nice to see Jake Hager developing a bit of personality in the ring. That's growing on me and doing some moves. That's nice.
I think that they hurt him a little bit with that match against Dustin, as much as that match was against Dustin. They damaged, I think, some of the good work they've done with Hagar's not talking and just the facial expression thing he's been doing, and he's been doing it so well. And they seem to be they seem to be fixing that again now. Yeah,
like when he was probably sort of smirking with Sammy, he feels a bit more like the tough of the group, but having a bit more of an interact other than being a drone, even though him snogging his wife was a bit weird last month.
Yeah. So Santana gets the win with a roll-up. What did you think of the match, and what score did you give the match? Not adding on the bit that happens afterwards, specifically the match.
I gave it a B without any like extra stuff on it. I was
without
like,
the extras.
yeah, without
Put
the
you on the spot now, haven't I?
You have. I wrote A brackets high B question mark. Yeah, the match was solid. I always love watching Ortiz, the evil little goblin man, do basic heel things, even if he's cut down on the back rakes, and that's saddening me at the moment. Hangman, who has gone from someone I cared nothing about 8 months ago to, but when he got that hot tag, had a great time. I did feel like Cody's beatdown went on a little bit long for a while. I was like, come on, somebody else can do things. But yeah, otherwise I think it was good. As a solid, enjoyable match, nice bits of interaction, picked up into a really strong sequences at the end. Anytime Matt Jackson does a Northern Lights suplex rolling, I pop like crazy. Hangman and Matt coming together to suplex Hager was cool, and then them going for the indie taker, but that costing them. Yeah, I had a great time, and in honesty, we've not seen a surprise roll up win yet, so I was okay with it. It's not an overpowered move in AEW.
I like the fact it's just a move in AEW. They never shout, "Oh look, they stole one" with it. It's a legitimate move that you can finish a match with. That's something I really like. Yeah, I really enjoyed the match. I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed the Page and Matt Jackson getting on the same page. No, nothing intended. And the setup for the indie taker, as Jericho called it.
There's like 4 different moves.
Yeah, I thought it was a solid match. It was. I would expect nothing less from the guys who were in that ring at that time.
Yeah, completely. They some of their most solid performers, and I've generally not been a big Hager fan. I'm not a big fan of strikes-based matches. It's not really my thing, but he's gained a few more power moves. He looked like a beast in his traditional fighting trunks. Yeah, he would have been the person I'd put down as the weakest person for me watching on enjoyment in such a match. And even he was great. Yeah, just it's your top card altogether, stealing the show. Wicked.
Stealing the show and not killing the business. So what we're saying, high B to an A for the match?
I'll go with high B because obviously this ties into the post, the end of the match storytelling. If we were watching this in a TV series, this would all be the same like emotional scene. So
yeah,
it goes up to an A with the M bit.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfectly fair. So yes, Santana gets the win with a roll-up. Jericho cuts a promo about the Elite being pretty much saying they're outgunned, outnumbered, how the Inner Circle don't fall out. They've never hit each other by accident.
Pacing did get a bit weird for a little bit when Jericho was doing his talking. I think he started a bit too early in the cutaway scene, and normally he's got those pauses for people cheering or shouting at him.
Yeah,
and I think that it was just a little bit when he was like, and look at Sammy, he's very sexy. This one's doing some push-ups.
I wonder whether the problems with Vanguard 1 played that, whether Matt was playing for time before he cut across Jericho.
Could be.
Matt Jackson, that is.
Yeah, fair. But I said, I suppose you also used to getting a response from the crowd. Look at the amount of times Jericho said something and he just gets to stand there looking smug for like 40, 50 seconds. It's just pacing you've lost, like a sad muster, which is something only we will get.
Yes. So Matt Jackson points out they are not outnumbered, and Vanguard 1 appears
with a piano version of TH2's intro plays.
Broken Matt appears, and Jericho sells it with those lovely, like he's about to cry. And we end the show with Matt Hardy throwing the delete.
It just would have been a bit cooler if the drone had gone back up to Matt where Matt was. as opposed to the camera sort of pay. I mean, it was wicked and it was cool and I enjoyed it. And these guys are working very hard in very different situations, and a broken drone is nothing you can control. But it was just pans up to Matt Hardy doing Matt Hardy things on a balcony. I was like, oh, it's Matt Hardy. He's having a little bit of a seizure. Off you go, Matt. Good times.
So overall, I thought it was a good episode of Dynamite. What is your overall score?
Well, I'll do a quick top up now. So we've got an A for a section. In fact, we've got mostly A's and B's with a couple of C's. For the promo work, the story, some of the things they... I think if it had been all of the same, without the challenges and stuff, it would only have been like a high B, but I'm giving it an A for the challenges they overcame, the pops they've got. The lack of crowd costs things. You know what I mean? I get excited when the crowd gets excited. I get excited when the commentator gets excited. The colour commentary. I'm going to go for an A. It didn't blow my mind. A lot of very good matches, a lot of very good story. The other wrestlers in the crowd, making up for missing people, little bits of side story. Yeah, solid. I'm going to go for an A. I'm going to go all the way out. We're going to start on a high note with this podcast. And I'm the jaded one.
I think that's fair. With all the things they've had to overcome to put on a show that enjoyable, considering.
They sort of acknowledge the theatre. They acknowledge the theatre of their show more than a lot of other wrestling shows do.
The other thing I was impressed with was we didn't hear anybody making calls during the match, and I think that was helped by the people actually having something that maybe Raw and SmackDown should consider is bring out some of the other wrestlers because it just gives you something.
They should print out the crowd from the old SmackDown game on the PlayStation and
just have them at cardboard cutouts.
Still speakers. It's a very good point. I have now been in a wrestling ring twice learning these things, and those things are not big, and you have to stamp to cover sounds quite a lot. No, that's a very good point. They covered up all their talking really well. They didn't John Cena it. John Cena's going to be in a match with no crowd. Have you thought about this?
Oh.
We're going to know everything.
John Cena's going to be in a match. That's unfair, actually, because John Cena has got what I would consider an S match under his belt, at least one, if not two. CM Punk Money in the Bank.
Of course, it's CM Punk.
Okay, it's CM Punk, it's me. And the other one, RVD and John Cena at the ECW One Night Stand.
Okay.
I think it was One Night Stand 2. That is a fantastic match, and it's the first time you see Cena keeps playing that baby face to a hostile crowd, and he is so good. He throws his t-shirt into the crowd and they throw it back at him.
Amazing. I do love the scenes where Cena takes the piss out of his reputation. As much as I stopped watching in the Cena era, the guy is fabulous and great at what he does. Just not my era of wrestling. Just not my era of wrestling.
That's fair. I agree. I think we start on a high. So that was our review of this week's Dynamite. Now we go to our next section, and it's over to you, Mr. Strange, I believe, to introduce and start this.
Oh, God. So, everybody, I'd like to welcome you to what would probably normally be led by me, but I believe the gentleman on the other end of the screen has probably stronger thoughts than I do. Welcome to Rant of the Week. Subject 1, Week 1. The AEW Women's Division. I'm waiting for the hate to begin powering up.
Yeah. So
it's not been good, has it?
No. It feels like a bunch of women who can work with no stories other than just one story, the belt, and which, yes, you should all be striving for the belt, but it's a bunch of women, one story, and it feels like it's being booked like the Divas, but without all the crap that goes with the diva era. They talked about it being the strongest women's division. I'm sorry, the strongest women's division in popular wrestling at the minute is NXT's women's division. And
Impact's doing pretty well.
WWE have got. Sorry.
But Morg, Impact has a women's world champion. Not a women's world champion belt. Their overall wrestling championship is held by Tully Blanchard's daughter.
That's pretty fair. I will be honest, I haven't watched Impact in so long.
I catch up with highlights whilst I'm lurking on the internet.
Yes.
No.
Give Impact if Impact's women's division, because it was Impact's women's division that first really sparked it before Stephanie McMahon created the Women's Revolution. In case you hadn't noticed, that was sarcasm. The Knockouts division was really strong, and then I say the NXT division has just been so good. But the AEW one, it feels like an afterthought. It doesn't feel strong. They're not giving chance for the characters to get over, and some of the matches, they feel a bit stunted. They don't flow. And then you get Nia and Rio together, and you're going, this is why you're actually good, because those two can have a beautiful match. I certainly say the last match they had when Nyla Rose took the championship, that was an A match for me. I really enjoyed that.
I've kind of had it started high, then went low, and is building back up for me on the AEW Women's League. If you recall how excited I got about all the Joshis at the start because of my weird love of Japanese pro wrestling. I was really excited. We had like Aja Kong, we've had Emi Sakura, who is great in the ring, but her gimmick is just not gonna work over here. I love Yuka. Brit, but a lot of it started with the Brit push. I just don't think anybody cared for Brit, which is harsh, but she wasn't great.
A dentist is not a babyface character, as she is now proving.
Don't get me wrong, although I was not on board with Brit at all at the start, her new heel Mean Girls thing is winning me over. Ruth seems to love it and finds it hilarious.
My problem is that's one of the problems when you get as well. It's the only heel male writers can write is the Mean Girls heel.
Yeah, I got you.
But I think hers is really good because of she's disingenuous more than Mean Girl, and I actually prefer that.
I quite enjoy the fact she's basically given Tony Schiavone Stockholm Syndrome as well. Like, he is the bullied nerd kid with her, and it makes me laugh.
Yes.
Like, previously, up until... it's like just before Christmas, I'd say we had the worst era. We're not even era levels. The worst period in AEW women's wrestling. Because we started off, and I remember loads of us were praising the matches on Dark with the women's when we first got to see a bunch of the, at the time, indie talents, when we first saw Shanna and Statlander and stuff, and we're like, oh, this is wicked.
Yes, I do like Shanna and Statlander.
But both fantastic. Like, we first saw Swole on there, and I wasn't sold on Swole at first. My two issues being, one, a lot of her strikes looked a bit weak, and two, she's not the biggest, swollest woman in their division. But that's on me. But she's improved greatly. Great. She's been fun on being the elite. Once she added that extra spin onto her elbow Rainmaker, it's added a little bit more flair to it. So I'm excited to see where that can go. I loved having Yuka in that match the other day because I enjoy the terrifying, slightly heel, crazy ferret girl. She makes me laugh.
I do like Yuka.
She's just fun. I have a great time every time she's in the ring. I think it's because although she's small, and she's actually a bit bigger than Riho if you look at like her muscle and stuff, She could pull off a bunch of cool moves. She's got that double 619, but she doesn't she's not sold as a badass. So she'll run in and Shida looks like she can take a hit and get thrown about. Yuka runs in, does something stupid, gets battered out, and then rolls about for 10 minutes before coming back to do something stupid. I think what I'm saying is we've got all of the makings of a good league. We've got a correct amount of talent who people don't know who could be used in different areas. We've got powerhouses from Nyla working down like Statlander, Shida, etc. We've got comedy. We've got Yuka who can do your comedy things. We've got a more streety, strikey person in Big Swole, and yet I still don't care. I don't care. You should go. I've had my rant.
I just think they need to start booking it like the men's and just booking wrestlers. I know this is something that Becky Lynch has talked about in WWE when she was on Backstage, about it just being about the wrestlers and not talking about intergender matches, but it just being about those characters, and don't just make everything about the title, and don't always make the women's match the cool down match.
Yeah, no,
so
completely.
In the piss break match.
Yeah, no, it just shouldn't be. It's why I said I got so excited when we had the multiple Joshi matches at the start, and just like the impact and ferocity with which some of those lasses hit each other. And I'm extra sad about Emi Sakura because she's really good, and she has a story where she has trained most of those other female Japanese wrestlers. Hell, she's trained some of the non-Japanese ones. There's a story there. Especially she likes being a bit of a heel. You can roll with that. Then you can tie all your other wrestlers in. You can tie cross stories across there. We've got an unstoppable champion. It's going to take some work to bring Nyla down. We've got a story there. Mean Girls versus Swole. Cool. I think the Nightmare Collective cost them a lot of what they were hoping to build up.
I like the fact that they just dropped it when they realised it wasn't working, though.
Yeah, I feel bad because when it first came out and it was like Kong and Brandy with like that cool sort of voodoo-y sort of hints in the...
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this is their culture. This is their background. If they want to tell a story based around these sort of things, it's not going to be typical media milking something. You know what I mean? They've got the creative control. Maybe we can see something like this handled well without it coming across as incredibly racist. But then it became a we defend the company. And then
it became a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and then Kong obviously suffered a massive injury, so she can't wrestle, and that's kind of cost you your old school fandom and your nails obliterator from your stable. I mean, they were right to drop it. It was not something that they could persevere through on like sheer like comedy value. Like the Dark Order had its detractors and is a bit stupid and comedic, but it kind of works on that lightly camp way.
Yes.
Whereas the Nightmare Collective kind of wanted to be taken seriously. And I'm like, she's cutting off hair and making people change their gimmicks. That's weird.
So yeah, I think are we happy we've got that out of our system in a public forum now?
Give me a second, just let me think if I have anything.
This is what's known as radio dead air.
Dead air.
Which I will fill.
I'm just sad we'll never get Kagetsu, greatest female wrestler in the world, up until very recently when she retired. I think we have success. I think because we started angry, then worked into lightly sad.
Yes. There's so much potential.
Anger leads to fear. Fear leads to
special
despair.
shout out to Shanna, who's not been on television enough recently. I do like Shanna. I think she's really good.
Yes, mate. A proper bit of actual like physicality. Yeah, no, but I think now the women are learning how to be comfortable with each other, which I now know from my mighty 2 days of wrestling training is a thing. Like when you're not used to handling people, you don't know how much you can throw them about or how much they can lob you. Now we're seeing more of that. Bring in Shanna. Shanna, Shida, Statlander, Swole. Yeah, we've got the makings of a solid, athletic, good selection. Obviously, the Yuka and Riho we have discussed many times. They're also good. Lots of good talent. Do something with it.
Yeah, I can echo that.
Give me a women's tag league.
So it's a dangerous thing to do. I shall explain why when we're off air, or we're just going to end up in another rant about women's tag team wrestling and WWE. So now we would normally here like to move on to what we call our questions, where we would answer any questions or give our opinions on things people have asked us. Obviously, this is our first episode, so nobody's asked us anything. If you do want to get in touch, you can email us at wrestleopinionated@gmail.com, and you can look on Twitter, where we are WrestleOP, capital W. So that's the place to send your questions, or if you want to hear us rant about something, or you want to give us an idea for our next section, which is our discussion piece. We're just we've taken a subject we both had a bit of a chat about. We thought this will be an interesting thing to have a chat about.
Doing a weird Google last night, like checking ages and stuff. Let's go. Set this up.
So who is the best veteran in AEW, and why is it Dustin Rhodes?
Because I'm
staying on brand.
I'm gonna. I'm going to counter Dustin Rhodes after doing a bit of research, looking into ages. At first, I thought Kaz might be in, but Kaz is only 42. He's on the wrong side of 45 to enter this competition for me.
That's fair.
Kaz's rope bounce leg drop would have got him in alone. Then I worked up to Christopher Daniels. Great indie, Japan, TNA, worked everywhere, done everything. Has he ever actually been in WWE? I think
he had a cup of coffee there.
That just popped in one day. This dad-looking man wants in.
I've seen there is a video of him, and either he's in the background and it's a video with John Cena, or John Cena's in the background and it's a video with Christopher Daniels. So I know they spent some time at the same training place together. Chris Daniels is definitely a good shout for the veteran wrestler. Still the best moonsault ever.
It's beautiful.
Legitimately still is, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fabulous. And once again, he's the whole package. He trains people. He's got like a theatre degree or something. He can do all the promos, all the props. He's happy to eat losses. He can win where he needs to. He's great. But only a year younger than Dustin, we do have Chris Jericho.
Who is fair.
And I've been thinking, I had to properly make a little comparison list. And I think this might be where your more love towards traditional wrestling meets my sort of more love towards the overall media of wrestling, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because for me, Jericho is the package. He can do everything. He's got great moves. He's adapted into the gimmick of weird old rocker, narcissistic past it rocker beautifully. Dustin is obviously awesome. I think he only does one thing in the ring I don't like, but he makes up for that by having the Rhodes Power Slam, obviously.
Oh, he has the best snap power slam. It's between him and Randy Orton, and I think Dustin just edges it. Randy Orton's one is very good, to be fair. It's one of the few moves that Randy Orton does, apart from the RKO, that I actually go, wow.
Mil Muertes would like to know your location.
What's the move? What's the move what's the thing he does that you don't like?
I'm trying to think of which wrestling name to go with. The flipping pile driver, the Code Red, it's not
Variation Destroyer.
Yeah, Variation Destroyer. He's just a bit too big and lanky for it, and I see it all the time. Like it's become a transitional move, and I kind of have to accept that. But for me, to make it look like it works, you need somebody who's a bit shorter to actually look like they're spinning their momentum around them. Whereas everybody is smaller than Dustin, so it's kind of hard to figure out how he goes through and round for me. He's just a bit too long for it. But that would be
for me, one of the reasons that Dustin stays near the top is his ability to tell a story in a match as well. No. Something I think that is definitely a Rhodes thing, because I remember thinking, oh, Cody matches, just to go slightly on tangent, Cody matches are, you know, he's not awesome, he's good, and then you watch them, you go, but the storytelling is so good, and you're drawn in, and Dustin's storytelling is absolutely phenomenal, and he has that, I'm just a beaten down old wrestler, and
one last ride,
and that's strong of passion. I think you are right with Jericho, though. I think you I think you may have persuaded me.
No, I was looking into it, and obviously I saw Jericho wrestle Tanahashi at Wrestle Kingdom. Obviously, I wasn't on TV, which is I think Tanahashi's like 48 as well. Old dudes just go in for it. But it's even the little things, like Jericho puts over everyone, and you know, Dustin is great, and he's got his he's pushing like Sonny Kiss, QT, loads, you know, not putting him down, but like you hear Jericho talk about anyone, and even when he's hating on them, he's making them look good. Also, he's so good at ring distraction. Like if somebody, like when Cody's eyebrow got split, you watch Jericho, he instantly spotted it, got a microphone, did some distracting things so they could deal with that. He did the same with Pac as Neville when he shattered his ankle. You can look up that video. He, you know, works in character to make the match continue, but still let them deal with the injury. And it's just really clever and dedicated. Like the man is genuinely great for the business. Also, he's never taken a load of drugs and spun his dick around on a plane. So...
greatest of all time. Jericho is one of the reasons that we are able to do this podcast. It was, I'd fallen out of love with wrestling, and 2 weeks after I'd fallen out, I jumped onto my regular site that I used to use to keep an eye on things, just to catch up. I wasn't really watching, and the Save Us, I think it was Save Us 222 promo thing was happening, which was all hinting at a Chris Jericho return, and I was sucked back in, and that made me watch Raw every week for the many weeks it took until they actually did something with it. So
you'd be surprised how much I shout "break the walls down" in my house. Like if I'm playing computer games and I'm sieging a fortress, if I'm opening a door, breaking boxes, I will start that Y2J moment, and I love it. Yeah, he's the whole package.
So there you have it. That is our first Wrestle Opinionated podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, as I said before, check us out. Check us out on, we're on Facebook under Wrestle OP with a capital W, Wrestle Opinionated at gmail.com, Wrestle OP Twitter. I will now let the lovely Mr. Matt sign us off.
People, I hope you enjoyed that. We're going to keep doing these up as long as people keep listening, and you'd better keep listening because I need something to do during the day and we're all in isolation. We're going to keep these going. We do want your questions. I do need some things to answer to. I'm better as an improver on the fly. Hit us up. I don't care if you're trolling me. As long as it's a question I can read on a podcast, we will do that. You want us to discuss a certain point from AEW history? Do that. Send us what you want. Hell, send us if you want to hear us talk about anything else. This is hopefully a project we can expand into different things. I'm considering doing some solo ones or ones with other friends about NJPW pay-per-views. Morg's looking at doing some for NXT when that kicks round. Hell, this gets popular, we'll force each other to watch each other's backup promotions and get on those. Send us things in. Give us some feedback. Let us change this. We will make the wrestling podcast you want to hear, as long as it's mostly about AEW, because we can only watch so much wrestling. Boom.
And on that note, goodbye and good night.
Awesome.